What's up everyone, I'm WhatsApp in new video. Today guys, I'm going to show you how to drift in CarX with no assist with your wheel setup, because many people ask me how you drift like that. Plus there is some players has some drifting problems in this game. The most important thing about this game, if you get the right tuning, you're gonna be pro drifter with the wheel. So we are going to get the first car, Hachi-Roku, and make it low power and less grip. That's the best way to start drifting in CarX. That's gonna be the build. We are focusing on it for smooth transition and drifting. Before we get to that, let me show you my wheel settings in game and my profiler. Let's get to the most important part, the tuning. Let me show you the car tuning. After that I will tell you the stuff that I always change in the car setup. That's my tuning for the Hachi-Roku. So first thing to do, go to garage and start the mod or the setup ultimate on the car, then go to dyno stand. As you can see, we got 5 stuff: suspension, wheels, engine, transmission and brake. Let's start with the suspension. From here we are going to make the car feels good in the transition. I always change the front and the rear spring length and stiffness. For the stiffness I always use between 50 and 100. Most of my drift builds, I don't like it too stiff, to be honest. Let's get to the camber. I use negative camber on the front and a little bit on the rear. For the front and rear anti-roll bar I use 90. Caster I use between 5 or 7. If you feel the steering a little bit stiff in drifting, drop down the caster. For the Ackerman angle I use between 70% and 90%. For this build we're gonna use 80% and max out the steering angle. Did you guys ask yourself when you are drifting in CarX why is there front tire marks on the road? That's because you are running zero Ackerman. That's not right guys, please stop using zero Ackerman. Let's be honest, I used to run zero Ackerman before, but after I met CarX wheel community I stopped using zero Ackerman. Shout out to CarX wheel community and don't forget to join their Facebook group. Now let's go to the wheels menu. From here we are going to make the car less grip and smooth in drifting. For the rim diameters, for this build you can use between 14 and 15, but in my other drift builds I use more than that. My max is 20. For the front and rear tire width, we are going to use the lowest ones, 165mm for both. And here is my other tire sets for the other drift builds. So if you want less grip, you can add tire pressure or change your wheel adhesion to 90. If you want more grip, you can drop down the tire pressure or you can change the wheel adhesion to 100 or 110 or 120. For this build I'm going to do both, adding pressure to the rear tire and change both wheel adhesion to 90 so we can drift smooth and less aggressive on the transition. For front and rear tire profile I'm using 45 for this build, and for the other drift builds I use between 25 and 35. Now let's go to the engine menu. From here we need to make the car low power as possible. Drop every tuning to lowest value and change your RPM to 8.5k RPM. The car now has 217 horsepower. My other builds I run between 300 and 800 horsepower. Now let's go to the transmission menu. For the deflocker ratio most of the time I use 1. And for the final drive I always leave it without changing it in the first time. First thing to do is testing the car and see if the gears are good or not, because sometimes you need to make some changes to final drive or maybe the gears are not close to each other. I always start with third gear, make it closer to second gear. Between them 0.4 or 0.3 depends on your drift build. Now let's go to the brake menu. I always drop the brake torque for some drift builds because there is some cars has really hard brakes. Plus my brake pedal is sensitive sometimes. And for the front brake bias I always use 75% and ABS on. We'll get back to this menu in another tutorial, how to tandem in CarX. Okay guys, that's it for the dyno stand section. Now let me show you the best tracks to practice drifting. My favorite 2 tracks in CarX is Red Ring and H1 because it's small tracks and the road are smooth for drifting. There is no bumps. The most important part in drift practice is your throttle control. If you know how to control your throttle, trust me, you're gonna be good at drifting. With this car, trust me, you don't need to use handbrake every time you do transition. Most of the new drifters always use the handbrake on every transition. If you are new in CarX, you can do that, there is no problem. But after you get used to your drift setup, you need to start using less handbrake. Let's be honest with you, there's some of the trucks you need the handbrake to extend your drift. So guys, hope this story helped you to get in CarX with no assist. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe and hit that bell button so you don't miss out anything. Before we end this video, I'm going to show you my favorite drift section in Patreon.